Yeah, welcome to the Timeless Tempo podcast, a podcast where we discuss music, culture, and the art behind it. And you're still with your host, Joe Lipi, here at the AI Media TV and radio. But on this segment, we focus on a podcast. Today's topic is one that is intriguing and interesting to you, all music listeners, music lovers, writers, artists, singers, and name it. All that lies in that category is what we are tackling tonight in this episode here at AI Africa International Media. All right. Today's topic is simply the language of music. You know, many people say music is a language. Of course, that's true. And today we want to know more about the language of music. Let's say, for instance, if you consider English, let's say Swedish, French, Spanish, Polish, and all other languages, just like all the languages, you have rules and all sets, the grammar, and all those things that make up a language. How a language is written, how it should be spoken, which letters are silent, which letters are loud. All that is live and well when it comes to the language of music. As usual, today we pile unto you 10 points that we shall share with you, mature, advanced, professional musician, a starter, and all those lovers of music. It doesn't really have to be that you play or what and that, but we are into the language of music. As anyone who loves it, listens unto it, this is what the language is made of. And we kickstart with the first point. And this says, all right, music has a universal element in it. And what does that mean? Different cultures, different traditions have their own style of music. When you listen to it, you'll know that this music comes from these people. That is now a universal language of music. For instance, if you go to the Nordics during the summer, they have a, a famous tune they play unto. Um, they hold hands, go around a tree that they put around for the summer tradition. That is their way of identity. If you come back to Africa, and they call it like small groove. So if you listen to that tune play, you'll directly recognize that, oh, this is from the Nordics. And particularly in Sweden, when you come back to Africa, we have songs, we have tunes that are played at different occasions. For instance, if it is child naming, they play a certain song, and then you will recognize it and say, okay, this is always played when somebody is born and they're going to name a child. Child naming. Be at parties, they play certain songs. From a distance, you know, okay, someone is having a party, a wedding, and other cultures, circumcision, and all that. All that is what makes up the universal language of music. You listen to it, and then you recognize it and say, okay, this music is from this part of the world. This music speaks that. So that is one of the elements that make up the language of music. Music is universal and identical. And that takes us to the second point, and that says musical notation. That is the written language of music. Just like any other language that is written, music is also written down. If you've heard of something like the minim, the crochet, the crochet, the dotted minim, that is now the written language of music. And to a surprise, even though you can't write music, anything you sing or anything you speak musically can be written down. And this day and age where technology is affecting music, whatever you can sing, it can be written down technologically, and you'll see the notes, the notation down. The written language of music is made up of mainly two, the treble and the bass clef, for those who can read. So that is the written part of music, the notation. For instance, if I say dee da 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 ba da da ba da da, I'm just saying that. But if you give it to a music man who can write it down, they will surely write that down unto you and say the dee da da you sang is written like this. They give you a time signature, the key, and all that, and they jot unto you down and they show you this is what you've been singing. You might not read it, but that is it. That is the written part of music, the notation. And I would implore you, if you have time, learn the language of music. Just like you can write your normal English today is this and this and this. I went to the market and did this and that, or supermarket, whatever it is. That is the language of music, the notation. Number three, we talk about the rhythm. Now, interesting. The rhythm is the heartbeat of music. And we've been talking about rhythm many times in our previous episodes. We've been talking about rhythm. But today we get a chance to elaborate a bit what rhythm means. We have different elements in the language of music that make up the language of music. We have rhythm, we have harmony, we have melody. But now we're talking about rhythm. So, what is rhythm? All right. Rhythm is to do mostly with the beat. You can call it the beat, or you can say the drumming, the groove of the song. That is the rhythm. For instance, if I was playing like that is the rhythm. Whatever you sing on that can be the main cause, can be a melody, what you sing upon that rhythm, and then you could spice it up and have a harmony. You make harmonies over the melody that accompany the rhythm. So the rhythm is the heart of music, is like the groove of the music. And mostly it is brought up by the drumming, the drums. That is mostly like the rhythm. And they also have time signatures. It could be 4/4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4 with different tempos. That is quite fast. It could go 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Could be 3 4 1 2 3 1. It could be 2 4 1 2. It could be 6 8. But that is what we term to be the rhythm. All right. We continue with the next point, and that is the melody. Remember the rhythm, now the melody. Now, the melodies express emotions from wherever we come from. We have profound songs, we have profound tunes that we know, that we listen unto, that we love. That simple sentence, that is what melody is. And we compare it to rhythms as we've talked about in the previous point. For instance, we all love Christmas, traditional, religious, and non-religious, and there are some uh, well-known Christmas songs. For instance, that is now the melody. I am dreaming of a white Christmas. Or you could do Sina Makosa. Asirazani niwe bwana. That is the melody of the song. Or you could do another song, Shauri Yako. That is the melody of the song. That sentence that you sing over and over again. That is the melody. Hello, it is me you're looking for. Lionel Richie, that is the melody. You know? And mostly the melody is spiced up, as we say, to accompany the rhythm is the harmony. And that surely we shall talk about it because all these are the basic elements of the language of music. So we have been discussing the melody that forms up the flesh. You could think like the rhythm is the bones, the melody is the flesh, and harmony is the breath or the life. You could break it down like a human being. You have the bones, the skeleton, you have the flesh, and you have the life within you. So that is rhythm, melody, and harmonies. The rhythm is the bones, your skeleton. The melody is the flesh, and the harmony is the life within you. That is the language of music. Now we go into number 5. And this is previously again in our episode, we talked about this briefly, but we bring it again because it is entailed in the language of music, and that is the structure of communication. What is this structure made up of? If you remember well, we talked about chorus, a verse, the bridge. Those are the usual ways how music is done. You have your verse, you have your chorus, you have the bridge. The way you do it is personal preference. You could say, in this song, I want to begin with the chorus, depending on how you feel, depending on how you want to write it, depending on how you want to communicate with your listeners, depending how you want to bring out your message to your listeners, to your lovers, to your fans out there in the world. You could say, okay, now in this tune, I'm beginning with the verse. Okay, in the other song, I'm beginning with the chorus. And then you alternate it. Verse, chorus, verse, bridge. Chorus, verse, bridge, verse, chorus. It's just up to you. The way you do it, that's strictly and entirely how you feel like. But that is what the structure is made up of. But it would be nice to know how the structure works if you're into now writing and doing music, not just listening into it, but now doing rather doing it and performing it. You should know how this works. Remember, we are capturing everything as lovers of music, be it a listener, be it a doer, be it a performer, the language of music. So when it comes to the structure, this addresses us mostly about what we should think more of. Because when it comes to the listener, we sometimes remembering all the words or all the verses could be challenging. It takes time, to really sit down and listen to the lyrics word by word, learn by heart, and then re-sing it. You reprise the song of the owner. It isn't easy. So, what should we think when we're writing the verse? Because in most songs, we love the verses because they come again. In most cases, they don't change. So, as you're writing your verse, let it be magical, let it be extra, so that when someone re-sings your verse, they love it. We sometimes know songs by their verses because it reincarnates all the time. Dance, dance, yeah. African TP collection. This is San Fantomas from Cameroon, but that is like rather a chorus. Yes, it is a chorus that it comes again and again. So your chorus should speak to the people. Lady in red is dancing with me, cheek to cheek. That is a chorus. Why? Tell them that is human nature. Michael Jackson, that is the chorus. So when you're writing a chorus, what does it tell to your listeners, to your fans and lovers? And this takes us to the next point, and that is point number 6. Now, this is technical and it talks about the dynamics. The language of music is made up of dynamics. What is dynamics in music? Okay, it could mean the loudness and the softness, the emotional nuances to music, and the different variations, the changes in volumes and intensity. All that is dynamics. For instance, if I did a vocable like that is a dynamic. It has a run in it. You could say, okay, I'll use a different harmony, but I'll still keep the dynamic. Okay, now those are different dynamics. How I enter in the song. Or I could say, that is dynamics. Now, to the dynamic, I could say, okay, I will give different harmonies with different dynamics, but now I want to have different volumes, loudness, softness, and intensities. I could say, I want to begin loud and then come soft and then go intermediate or moderate. Or I want to do the reverse, begin low, intermediate, and loud. That is dynamical in the language of music. I've given myself 3 volumes: a low volume, an intermediate volume, and extremely forte, too loud. Dynamic, low, intermediate, and loud. That is the dynamics of the language of music. Oh, yeah. And then this brings us to point number 7, and that is the speed of communication. Just like any other language, some people speak too fast, and you have to beg pardon over 1,000 times. I beg your pardon, beg your pardon, beg your pardon, beg your pardon. What did you say? I didn't get what you said because they're too fast. That is also entailed in music, and that the musical term is called the tempo. Tempo of a song. It could be 240, it could be 60, it could be 80, 90. And in the music language, all these different tempos have the way they are called. To me, as a listener who loves music, I will just listen to music, a certain song, and say, okay, this tune is fast. It's quite fast, faster than the previous song that I've listened to, or this is moderate. But to people who now write the language of music, as we talked about, you remember I talked about the notation, they attach terms to all those. There is what they call dagio, there is what they call adagio. All those mean different tempos of music. There is what they call legato, moderatos. All those are different speeds of music. But to me, as a layman, I'll just call it a tempo. That is the speed of music, just like all other languages have different speeds in them. And remember, the tempo influences the energy of a piece and also affect different genres differently. For instance, if you look like, if you consider reggae, reggae songs are not that fast. They don't run so fast. It's awkward to find a reggae that runs too fast. They have their own tempos. When you listen to it, okay, this is a reggae tempo. And when you go to like punk or hard rock, you know, it is really too fast and the way it runs, that is good because it brings the differences and differentiates all these kinds of music. And that brings out the beauty of it. If the whole world looked the same, wouldn't it be boring? If you go east, you find trees. You go west, you find trees. You go north, you find trees. You go south, you find trees. Then what would you be looking for going from east, north, west, and south? You'd rather stay in one position. That you choose yourself if it is south. But if you move to the north and found a beach, okay, then you have something to compare with. Okay, there are trees in the west. Now we have a beach in the north. And then you move east. All right, what do they have there? You find a desert. Then you see the sand dunes. You see the camels. How beautiful. You go south. What do you find there? You find lakes with fishes and all that. How beautiful. That is the same thing with music. It shouldn't be the same. There is time for everything. You would love to laugh at a point. What if you're sad? Do you still listen to something that brings joy when you've lost something? No. That is the language of music. Music caters for all moments. And that takes us to another point. And this is number 8, the role of instrumentation, voice of music. Okay. Music is made up of instruments that are played when we do different pieces, and they are a million instruments as we speak of today, 1,000 maybe. There are many instruments. Wherever you'll go, you'll find an instrument, and each instrument is just as crucial as you might think about that place and region where you are, the type of music you're doing. Back in Africa, we have stringed instruments. In Uganda, they have what they call the adungu. It is a stringed instrument. But if you go to the West, that is in Senegal, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, you might find they call it the kora. But if you compare the kora to the adungu, you might find it is the same. But all those are stringed instruments. And then you go to somewhere else, you find they have the ukulele. You find they have the guitars, the bass. All those, you go and find the marimba. Now you're in Brazil or Latin America. 1,000 music instrument. instruments rather, but they all bring out the beauty of music. The element of instrumentation shouldn't be forgotten as we speak about the language of music. Talk about the drums. Some call it the djembe, some call it the slagverk, others call it the congas. They're built different, they could be built differently, but they all serve the same purpose. They contribute to the rhythm of the song. The power of instruments in music. And the voice is actually a tool or a powerful instrument too that shouldn't be forgotten actually. If you can't play anything, you have your voice. It is an instrument. A voice is a powerful instrument. Don't forget that. We often forget that, but today we are saying it here at the Timeless Temple that a voice is also an instrument. Don't forget that. All right, and this takes us to point number 9. Before I go to point number 9, instruments are really incredible. Think about, okay, if I'm doing a solo instrument, what emotion do I get? And you think of an orchestra where you have all these multiple instruments. You have the flutes, you have the trumpets, you have the saxophones, the trombones, the keyboards, the organs, the cymbals, the violins. How do you compare the emotions? What do they discuss and what do they say? Just think about it as we go to number next. And that is improvisation, which is number 9. Okay, with this, I'll ask you, do you at a certain point think of what to speak when making a phone call? Okay. And you're like, okay, my boss is calling. But before you answer, like, I'm going to say this and this. You pick a phone and say, okay, I want to call my mom. I want to tell her this and this and this. I'm going to call my kids. I want to tell them this and this and this. You always think of what to say when making a phone call. That is scenario 1. Scenario 2, when you're speaking freely with a friend, with your comrade, you always think of what to speak. Not always. Sometimes you just have a conversation that flows. You just follow along the lines. You bring a topic, be it politics, some try, some love calling it politricks. You just follow along. You just express yourself freely, spontaneously, in accordance with your thoughts, your emotions, and what you want to say. Same way with music. Improvisation is spontaneous. You could just start with something. We say the voice is an instrument. And just start singing something. They're playing and you just start singing. Today is a lovely day. Today is a good day. Today is a wonderful day. Spontaneously, but you're within the line of what that follows within. So that is also crucial. Improvisation comes. Now, improvisation mostly is about people who are performing, the performing arts of music. Those that are playing, those that are singing. For us, the listeners, okay, we could improvise in a different sense, like those who are playing. For instance, you could say, okay, I want to listen to spontaneous, I want to listen to rock. And then you say, okay, I want to listen to reggae. That is just spontaneous. Something comes to your brain and you just pick anything at random and play it. That is spontaneous. But those doing it and playing it, we normally say improvisation. It comes after, after a time of practice, you've done your training and all that. And then you find people playing something and then you jump into a key beat, a minor key beat, a major key, and then you just begin playing. but you're within the line. Improvisation as number nine in the element of the language of music. Finally, as a courtesy here at the AI Media, big up to you, OJ, the producer and the CEO at the AI Media. Number 10, we say culture variations in music or language. It is like the first, but we say examine how different cultures have developed their own languages of music with unique scales, rhythms, tonalities, and all that. In African music, we use mostly what we call the pentatonic scale. We love that because that resonates with our culture, it resonates with our music. Da, 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 da. That is the pentatonic. You might find those who love the blues, the African Americans, the BB Kings, and all those. They love their blues scales because it resonates with what they are talking. And that is all amazing and wonderful when we put all that together. I'll give you a bonus idea, and that is sound and silence, which we talked about briefly under dynamics, and the psychology of music. Now, this is wonderful. Explores how the brain interprets music and why certain patterns of sounds evoke specific emotions, and the science behind why music affects us the way it does. So, to wrap it down, we had our 10 points that make up the language of music. And as a courtesy, we take a quick break. And then when we come back, we play something for you as an inspiration and as an encouragement as we delve into all the aspects and elements of the language of music. We'll be right back. Yeah, yeah. Welcome back, our lovely listeners and viewers here at the AI Media, the African International Media, still at the timeless tempo with your host, Joe Lipi. Session two, as a courtesy, we go into the performing arts now. We do the real music as we revisit what we talk about in our first episodes. Always we were talking about the language of music and we discussed a lot of elements. But in this special occasion, we want to deal with three elements: melody, rhythm, and harmonies. All right. So we want to deal with harmony, melody, and rhythm and see how these three are different and how, if you put them together, they bring out the beauty of music, especially in a song, be it singing, be it instruments. How does this work? And we shall concentrate on a simple piece. It is called Tug of War, written and sung by Joe Lipi himself. Let's see how these three elements put together the changed music. For instance, if we are in the key of A flat and we begin in the minor, that is A flat minor, the key of A flat minor. So we're going to use the melody goes like this. We gotta fight and fight until victory cometh. Fight and fight, no stopping, no ceasing. Resilience is the, it goes, resilience is the bloodlife of humanity. So that is the melody. We gotta fight and fight till victory cometh. Fight and fight, no stopping, no ceasing. Resilience is the bloodlife of humanity. We gotta fight and fight. of the voice I was singing in. Now I'm going to bring in a different voice, which is now the harmony. Sing the first voice or the line that I sang back in your mind as I sing in the second. Put them together, you'll make a harmony. We gotta fight and fight. Victory comes fight. Here comes the harmony. Resilience is the blood life of humanity. The first goes. Resilience is the blood life of humanity. Second, resilience is the blood life of humanity. So if you put them together, you see where we have a difference in the harmonies. The melody is still the same. If you take the first voice, the harmonies have changed a bit. And if we ask what is the rhythm, it feels like a reggae song, but we're doing it acoustic. So it'd be like that is the rhythm of the song. So you could play it in that fashion. You could change a bit, but the groove remains underlying, and that is the rhythm. So we say, resilience is the black life of humanity. That was the second harmony. The first, resilience is the black life of humanity. Now, as a courtesy here at AI, TV, radio, podcasts, media, we'll do the whole song for you as an inspiration, as an encouragement, and as to keep you moving on because we can't do without music. That can happen. You're happy, you're sad, whatever mood you're in, celebrating, grieving, we will always have music. Keep on fighting, fighting, keep on fighting. Cause reaping, coming. Keep on fighting, fighting, keep on fighting. Cause reaping, cometh. Necessity is the mother of all innovations. And ring our battle calls for determination. For you need to plan your next step as you keep elements that we didn't talk about. For instance, the dynamics, the intensity, and the volume, where you go down, into moderate and high. It was all embedded in this. But we were mostly focusing on rhythm, melody, and harmony. Until next time, we love you and see you then. Is the blood life of you